so we'll get going today. All right, so today we're going to be covering maintaining, or if worst case scenario happens, transitioning from the seat belt or rear mount position. All right, so we're going to start in the full mount. We're going to do a modified mount drill just to learn how to take the back. All right, and then once we're in our seat belt, rear mount position, then we're going to talk about how can we maintain the back, okay, or retain the back, or if we lose position, what we need to do to make sure that we stay on top, preferably in the mounted position, okay? So that's what we're going to do right now. So we're going to start in the mount. We're going to review modified mount, transition to the back, the rear mount, and then from there we'll talk about the details of the back or the rear mount, okay? So can I borrow John, please? So we're going to start in the mount, full mount position. Okay, this way, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna start in the full mount. Okay, we're gonna work to transition to the modified mount. And now I know when to transition to the modified mount when the person starts to turn to their side without proper framing. Okay, if he has proper frames and he works to turn to his side, it's gonna be tough to get to the modified mount. Okay, because that's what the frames are for. They're preventing me to move. Okay, but if he's gonna turn to his left. Once I get to here. Once this position happens here, where John's elbow starts to cross my center line and he doesn't have proper frames, this is the position where I start to transition to a modified mount. Okay, so I'm going back a step. Okay, I generally have my hands on the mat when I'm in the modified mount. Unless I'm in the middle of an attack, if I'm just kind of holding the position, I'm usually here either hugging the head and posting or posting with both hands with low posture. Okay, so here nor there, he starts to turn. The second his elbow crosses center line, my hands stay on the mat. The leg that's behind him on his back, it's gonna slide up and make a little pillow under his neck, and the other foot's gonna come tight to his stomach, and my knee's gonna open up. Now I wanna work to pivot my hips so that I'm kind of more facing his legs, so to speak, right? So I don't wanna get modified mount and stay facing this way. I wanna rotate my hips, and now I'm here. So I'm corralling him between my heel and my knee right here. I'm not really trying to squeeze him in that position, but I'm just kind of corralling him, slowing down his movement, okay? He's gonna go back to his back, and then I'm going to show the other side. So he turns the other way, slide the knee up, having this foot relatively tight. It doesn't need to be right up against his back, but it does need to be flared out like that. It can just kind of be like nice and comfortable. Pull my heel in, and here's the rotation. I want to generally be sitting back on my heel most of it. I don't necessarily want to be driving his weight forward, but I also don't want to have any weight on him. So again, I'm just kind of covering him like a blanket. Comes back. I allow him to go. So all I do is I open up my knee and drop my other knee to the floor. He goes again, modified mount. Very simple. Come back, one more time, cool. All right, so that's modified mount. We've done it before, but it's just a little review of the mechanics, okay? Now to take the back, okay, he's gonna go modified mount that way, boom. Now once he gets here, again, if he goes to his back, I allow him to go to his back. I like it when somebody's on their back, okay? It's when he starts to turn to his knees is where I need to start to make the transition. So again, my hands stay on the mat, right? My key is when this hip starts to leave the ground, right? In order for him to get to his knees, his hip has to come up. Okay, if he doesn't, then he's gonna be belly down and it's gonna be very hard for him to escape, okay? So when I see that hip come, the back foot is gonna point my toes and I'm gonna slide my feet in between his legs now. These are my hooks. Okay, now from here, I'm a little high right now, right? My weight is a little bit forward. So I put my toes in the ground, and with my hands, I like to shoot my hips back. Okay, now I'm a little bit more balanced. Okay, from here, I like to let go of the hand that's gonna be the underhook first. So I let go of that hand, go with my underhook, and now I have good connection to his back, where I can start to find my seatbelt position, and my head stays tight. And now from my feet can kind of leave the ground. You can keep them on the ground if you want to, but I'm gonna generally pull them up so that I have that good connection with my legs. Okay? So that's just transitioning from the full mount to the rear mount position. And we're just gonna do it by adding the transition of modified mount from there, okay? Nice and smooth and fluid. Notice my hands are on the mat 99% of the time. Both of my hands only leave the mat once I've established my hooks and my underhook for the seatbelt position. Okay, so again, turns to his left. I go modified mount. He turns to his knees. I slide my hooks in, shift my weight back, get my underhook, get my overhook, and then I have my head nice and tight. Remember, always head opposite of the choking arm or the overhook. And my head's very tight. Now from here, he's just gonna like collapse to one side, whatever, doesn't matter. Boom, and then we establish our good, strong seatbelt right here. Okay? When we're in that rear mount position, if he doesn't collapse, we can always break him down flat to his belly, right? We can always elongate our body, driving our hips into his back, which causes him to flatten out, which is also a very good position to have the person in, because now it's going to be very hard for them to move. I'm in a good position to strike or choke if I want to. Okay, it's the classic Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor finish, right? Where he turns to his knees, he gets the hooks in, flattens them out, throws a couple punches, gets him to lift up his chin, and chokes him out. So it's a very strong position. Okay, so we're just going to drill this transition to full rear mount. He goes again, turns, modified mount, turns, hooks in, seat back, underhook, overhook, head nice and tight, and John's going to collapse. Boom. Doesn't matter which side he ends up falling to, as long as I end up right here, nice and tight. Perfect. Okay? Any questions? Okay, let's give it a shot. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. So let's look at those little details in transition to the full back, the rear mount, and then how do I get my seat belt, little small details. Okay, so let's just talk about threading that foot through to get my hooks in. Okay, let's do it this way, and then turn to your right. Sorry, turn to your left. Sorry. Yeah, so he turns to his left, right here. Now, this foot right here. If I curl my toes back, his hips need to be very high off the ground in order for me to fit my foot through, right? So go ahead, start to come. Right here, you see? Like even here, it's hard for me to get that foot through, right? So what I actually want to do is I actually want to point that toe. Now it slides in with very low clearance, right? So it's just establishing my hooks very quickly. Right? So when I'm here, as he starts to go, I point my toe and it slides right in. Right? The second that hip falls off the ground or comes off the ground, I'm starting to slide that hook in, right? So I don't need to wait till he's all the way up to his knees to get this hook in. It might be too late. He might continue to roll to the other side. Right? So low clearance, we point our toes. There's very few times where I'm going to tell you to point your toes in jiu-jitsu, but this happens to be one of them. Okay, so again, goes to this butt. Right from here, right, keep this relatively tight. I don't need it all the way out here because it wants to become a hook, right? But it doesn't necessarily need to be completely tight. It can, and if you're comfortable with that, it could be tight. It's a shorter distance travel, right? But I'm just kind of like usually here. All right, he goes. The second that hip comes off the ground, look at that. It slides right in, okay? Now, the second detail. I generally like to have my left arm choking, right? So when I shift my hips back, I like to cheat to the left a little bit. So I'm going to the back, to the left a little bit, right? Not necessarily just straight backwards, okay? I like to do that because I know my choking arm is going to be my left one. So I shift my hips back and to the left a little bit, which allows me to get my right underhook, and that's a nice strong anchor. Now I can let go of this hand, and I don't feel like I'm falling off, right? If I were to shift my hips to the right and get my right underhook, now I feel like I'm falling off. I need to rely more on my hooks, okay? So if you know which arm is going to be your choking arm, shift your weight back and then to that side. Cheat yourself just a little bit, okay? A lot of times you can force the person to roll to the side that you want them. So if they fall back here, boom, now I'm kind of like leaning to my left a little bit. Now a lot of times I can even pull him and force him to that side that I want. Right? Because this is going to be a harder position for John to escape when I'm on the overhook side. Right? And we talked about that when we went over the back attacks a little bit more in detail. Right? So it's just a little detail that I like to do. I like to shift my weight back and then sheet to the side of going to be my overhook. Right? That way I feel like I have very, very good. And that also helps with like striking. When you want to have that position, you want to strike. Right? If I'm here, I shift my hips back to the right. Look, I got this arm. It's underneath this armpit. It's an anchor. Right now, from here, I can use this free hand to punch all I want, and I still have good, strong connection. All right. So just a couple little details that I like to do when I'm transitioning to the back from that modified mount position. Cheat myself back and then to the side of my choking arm. I just feel like I'm a little stronger and I have better positioning to attack or punch if needed, okay? All right, so we're gonna do that one more time a piece, okay? And just kind of focus on those little details, pointing the toe, low clearance to get to the back, and then shifting your weight, cheating your side to the overhook a little bit, all right? Let's work on it. 1, 2, 3. That side's gonna be easier to reset the back position. Just one time a piece. Good. Point the toe, slide in, hips come back. There we go. Boom. Good? One time a piece? Yeah. Okay, good. All right, time. Okay, cool. So now that we've reviewed the modified mount transition to the back, let's talk about the back a little bit, okay? So you sit right down. I'll take the back. So let's talk about first the hooks, okay? All right, hooks in, okay? Again, avoid crossing your ankles. Generally, you can do it. You just got to be careful, like little sneaky little ankle locks. Somebody got caught this morning with one, and so it does happen, okay? So, for the most, just open your knees a little bit, that way you can see. So, now my hooks, okay? The closer my heels are to his knees, the easier it's going to be for him to be able to clear my hooks without using his hands, right? Just use your knee and just circle your knee, very easy, right? Very easy. So, when I pull my heels in closer to his hips, now try to clear that without using your hands. Right? He needs to make a lot bigger of a circle in order to clear that hook, right? Out here, easy. Very easy, right? Pull those heels back, closer to his hips. Now again, harder, okay? So that's where I want my heel position to be, pulling my heels closer to my hips. Again, so his hips are now corralled between my heel and my hips, right? Makes sense? Right? So I'm pinching right here. Pinching with my knees together, again, adds extra support to the control. Okay? So that's just the legs. Again, you can talk about body triangles and different variations of hooks, okay? If you have the right body type and you're training against the right body type, you can get the body triangle. But for the most part, you're going to learn hooks first, and then the body triangle will kind of naturally, you'll find it as you start to kind of roll live, the body triangle will kind of, it'll show itself, and then that's where you kind of realize, oh, I'm able to do it. So, again, here we are. So we got hooks in, nice. Now let's talk about our upper body control. I'm going to have an overhook and an underhook. Okay, overhook and underhook. Remember, head stays opposite of the overhook, opposite of the choking arm. Okay, how do I grab my hands? Right. Traditionally, you use a seatbelt grip. Right, where you make a fist with the bottom arm, and the other hand comes over top of the knuckles, and that's our seatbelt. Okay, some people do it vice versa. Some people want to protect the choking hand. Some people like to have the choking hand on top. It's up to you. You figure out which one is best for you. I'm generally going to be protecting the choking hand, but sometimes I don't even think about it. I just grab my hands and whatever. I'll deal with the afterward. Okay, so that's up to you. You can go palm to palm grip. Okay, some people like this palm to palm grip. You can pull them in. Same idea. Doesn't matter which one is facing you, which one is turning away from you. Palm to palm grip. Again, the key detail is pretend like I have a steak in my hand and I want to drive that steak through his chest into mine. Okay, that's number one. Number two is locking my elbows down. Okay, the elbows are actually a very, very strong form of control. I can have my back with open hands and it can prevent him from turning his shoulders, right? So I'm locking my elbows into him. Again, the space between my elbows, I'm corralling him in it. Okay, so I can even have good control with open hands, which is going to come into play when you want to start to attack. Right? If you're loose like this, he has a lot more freedom to move. Right? So hands come together and hands come straight back, and then that elbow is locked down. Okay? So now from here, no matter which side I start with, okay, very, very strong position right here. It's going to be hard for him to escape. Okay? So there's just little details on the actual, hooks and the over-under position. Okay? Your over-unders are going to be more important than your hooks. Okay? Hooks are good, right? But if you just focus on the hooks and nothing with your upper body, he's going to escape all the time. Okay? So focus on the upper body control, and then if you lose the hooks, you can always find them again, which is what we're going to do today. Okay? So now let's move on to retaining the back. Okay? So if he falls to one side, how can I reset the position and still have my full hooks in my back? Okay? So I'm going to start on this side, all right? It's always going to be easier to reset the back when we fall to the overhook. Okay? So if I fall to the overhook side, this is going to be easier to reset the back. You can do it either side, but when you notice that when you're going to do it to the other side, it's going to be a little harder. You'll notice it just by doing it, okay? So we're here. I got my good seatbelt position. I got my head tight. I got my hooks in. He's able to clear my bottom hook. However he did it. Maybe he used his hand, okay? Maybe whatever, okay? He ends up clearing this bottom hook, and he's starting to make headway with his hips. Good, right? Right away, what I need to do is I need to focus on my upper body control. I need to keep my chest as tight to his back as possible. Once his back fully hits the mat, I feel like I've lost the back. I got to transition. But for now, we're here, okay? This top leg, it can do a few things. It can maintain being a hook, so I really bite hard with this leg. Okay, I can bring that hook all the way over to the far hip, or I can completely take that leg out. You can do either one of those three things, and it'll still work to reset the back. Okay, I prefer to at least keep this hook biting right here. I just have a little bit more connection to the person, a little bit more control. Okay, now from here, the foot that he cleared is going to toes down to the mat, and what I do is I want to work to lift my hips as high as I can. So I'm going to drive into his back, and I'm going to lift my hips as high as I can. Right? Once that happens, I'm going to try to connect my left knee and left elbow in this case. Now that's a little wedge that's underneath him. And now I'm going to pull him all the way to the other side. And now look, I still have one hook, and I just reinsert that second hook, and now I'm right here back to the full back position, and now he's got to work to escape again. Now we're going to do the same thing the other side. It's going to be a little trickier here, right? But it's very important. I keep my head tight. He clears that hook right there, right? The second that leg clears out, point my toes to the ground. I use it, drive my chest into him, and lift my hips high. See? Now again, I bring my right knee and elbow together, and I pull him to the other side. And then I reestablish my hook. Okay, you can do that back and forth, back and forth. He clears the hook. Reset. Hook comes in. He clears. Lift and reset the hook. Okay. The biggest factor is going to be keeping your back or your chest connected to his back. All right. So as you start realizing you're losing the hooks, you got to really focus on that tight pinch of the upper body. Okay, but that's all it is. It's a very simple drill. Just teach you how to reset. The farther that they escape, right? That's now you're gonna decide. Do you want to keep trying to chase it, or do you want to come up on top and take them out? And that's gonna be your decision in the moment. Okay, but as long as you keep a good chest to back connection, it's gonna be hard for them to completely escape the back. All right. So again, one more time. Doesn't matter which side you fall to. Doesn't matter which arm is over or under. Fall to this side. He starts to escape. Right now, you see? I use that foot to drive my chest into his back, right? And now I bring my knee and elbow together. Rotate to the other side. Boom. All right, let's rotate a little bit so we can see the back view. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now watch my right leg. He's going to clear my right leg. Once I feel like he's losing it, or he's cleared it, I'm going to pull it back and drive my foot to the ground. He clears the bottom hook right here. See? Drive that foot to the ground, drive up, lift my hips high, and connect my knee and elbow together. More or less. Doesn't have to be exactly. Like right now my knee is touching my shoulder, but it's the connection factor. I lift him up off his side, rotate to the other side. Get this pivot. Okay? Again, he goes to escape. Right here. Drive. Knee elbow connection. Rotate all the way to the other side. Alright? Very simple. We're just going to do that back and forth. Alright? I want everybody to start from the mount. We go through our modified mount transition to the back. Get our seatbelt. They collapse. Whatever side that they're on, they're going to start to escape. We're going to do our back retention drill. Okay? Questions? Alright, 1, 2, 3. Alright, so moving on. Alright, so now we're cool. We're resetting the back. We got good back retention. Every time he starts to escape his hips, we reset him to the other side, we get our second hook in, and we're right back to the beginning, okay? So now, it's gonna come a time, especially if he falls to the open shoulder, it's gonna be harder to do that reset, so now we're gonna try to come up on top to the mount, all right? It's just gonna very simple drill on if the guy starts to get his back to the floor, now if I try to chase the back, I might end up in half guard, all right? And that's okay, not a big deal. If I'm on top, end up in half guard, cool, but now I gotta work on passing his guard again, all right? I've done all this work to take the back. If I'm going to come up on top, at least let me stay past his guard. Right? So that's the big thing. So if I end up in the full mount, that's even better, right? But I don't want to end up in half guard for the most part, okay? Just give your back. Okay, so it's going to fall to your left boom. So we get here, okay? Hey, he starts to escape the hips. Now I feel like I'm losing that chest to back connection. See right here? Now like my chest is on his shoulder, his deltoid. So I think now it's going to be really tough. All right, so now from here, instead of trying to reset the back, now this top hook is just going to come over the top, and I'm going to connect my heel to his hip. Connect my heel to his hip. And I keep my knee nice and tight, right? I don't want to flare my knee out, right? It's just too much space. So I connect my top heel to his hip, and I keep my knee like really close to his ribs. Okay? Now I have to get to my bottom elbow. It's going to be hard for me to get height while I stay on my shoulder. All right, so I want my bottom elbow to shoot back and become a base point. And then the top arm is going to hook across his face, right here. Right? Now I'm staying nice and tight to him as I drive my knee to the floor, and then I just establish my mount position. Okay? So it's very simple, nothing fancy. It's just realizing the timing. Instead of chasing the back, I come up on top to maintain the mount position. Okay, and this bite here, biting on the heel and then keeping my knee pinched is gonna prevent him from being able to get me in some kind of a guard. If I had this leg like loose up here like this and I try to come up on top, he's gonna push on that knee and he's gonna try me in half guard, and now I gotta deal with him having offensive capabilities. Right? So I wanna stay past the guard so we limit his offensive potential. Okay? And this, again, same thing on the other side, nothing changes. Okay? If anything, you better be quicker to do it when he falls to the open shoulder side. So let's rotate this side. Okay? Because we know this is his better avenue to escape generally. Okay? So when he's here, boom, he starts that escape procedure. Oh man, right here. So I go here. This is grabbing his neck to create more connection, and then I get to this elbow. All right, so this is where I'm biting, dropping my knee down, and then I'm pulling myself with this hand and getting myself back up to the mount, and now we're here. Okay? Very simple, very straightforward. Just realizing the timing, keeping that top leg nice and tight, biting, getting to my elbow, and then controlling his neck with the other arm. Very simple. Falls, boom, he starts to clear, right there. Heel pinching, knee biting, boom, I get to my other knee, and now I'm back into the mount, okay? So that's all it is, just coming up on top to the mount. And then, once we come up to the top of the mount, right, we've created the beginning of the drill, right? Modified mount to the back, reset the back. So after everything's done, we're gonna go through a closed loop flow, where the ending is right where we started, and that way you can just put reps in, boom, boom, boom. So I'll get to that in just a minute. But let's just rep this, taking the mount if we're losing the back position. All right, questions? Very simple. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so time. All right, so that's it. Very simple, right? So now we're gonna put it together in a full flow. So here it's gonna be: we start in the mount, modified mount, rear mount. We're gonna do 2 back retentions, and then the third one, we're going to transition to the mount, and that's a full flow. Right? Ends up back in the same position. Okay, so I have John in the full mount. Okay. So here, doesn't matter which side he turns. Modified mount to the back. I get my seat belt. He collapses. All right, I do 2 back retention. So he reset, good, boom. Reset 1. I get my hook. Reset 2. I get my hook. He escapes again. Now I'm losing position. So I come up on top to the mount, sorry. And then this takes us right to the beginning again. John's going to turn the other direction. Go ahead. Go ahead. Reset 1. Reset 2. Oh. And again, a lot of times you're right here. Head and arm chokes. Slide my knee up. Arm bar. Okay? So it puts us in a nice position. You just to continue a flow. Back and forth. So I want everybody to do 2 full flows and then switch. They do 2 full flows and then we'll roll. Alright? Very easy. 1, 2, 3.